Chief Physician Tesh Amorai's voice cracked across the medical bay of Tarsus, for like something tearing. 2 orderlies moved. They were too slow. Marisol Vega had already crossed the room. She wedged her left elbow into the gap between a support column and the bulkhead, planted her boots, breathed out once through her teeth, and threw her whole body weight backward. The sound was wet and mechanical at the same time. Somebody screamed. It was not Mari. A young medic dropped a tray of instruments. Every monitor clipped to her chest lit up at once, red bars spiking across the display. Tesh stood frozen with a sealed nerve blocker still in her hand, watching a patient deliberately slam herself into a wall. Mari rolled the shoulder twice, slow, testing. Then she reached up with the same arm and pulled a strand of hair out of her eyes. Marisol Vega had already crossed the room. She wedged her left elbow into the gap between a support column and the bulkhead, planted her boots, breathed out on crew her whole body weight backward. The sound was wet and mechanical at the same time. Somebody screamed. It was not Mari. A young medic dropped a tray of instruments. Every monitor clipped to her chest lit up at once, red bars spiking across the display. Tesh stood frozen with a sealed nerve blocker still in her hand, watching a patient deliberately slam herself into a wall. Mari rolled the shoulder twice, slow, testing. Then she reached up with the same arm and pulled a strand of hair out of her eyes. 4th time, she said. 2nd one this year. You have injured yourself further. Tesh's voice came out thin. No, Mari said. I put it back. Tarsus 4 was a lump of dirty ice orbiting a ringed gas giant, 400 million miles from anything worth naming. It existed for one reason. Under the crust sat an ocean, and that ocean was water, and water was fuel, air, and money to every shipping lane in the Concorde. 211 people lived there. Teach it the 3rd safest industrial posting in the sector. Nothing serious was ever supposed to happen on Utes earlier. Mari had been in drill gallery 6, minus 31 degrees, walking a frozen tether line back to its spool, when the ice shelf under the anchor plate shifted. The line went from slack to singing in about a second. She got one hand on Borin's harness and threw him sideways. The line caught her arm on the way past and took the shoulder out of the socket. The rescue team expected to find a casualty. They found her sitting on an equipment crate, holding her own arm against her ribs, asking whether the brine heaters were still cycling. The heaters, a technician repeated. Yore. Yeah, Mari said. But if the heaters stall, the loop freezes, and then all of us have a bad week. Overseer Qual Vantrith arrived in the medical bay 11 minutes later, coat still sealed against the cold, 3 ranks of directorate insignia on his collar. He looked at Mari. He looked at the strip of cracked leather lying on the table beside her, the one she had bitten down on. Log that as an unregulated analgesic device, he said. Mari raised her eyebrows. It's a belt. It is undocumented. It's my belt. Vantrith folded his hands behind his back. Isness as though it were skill. Sometimes it's just practice. Practice does not override anatomy. Mari flexed the shoulder again. Depends whose. Tesh said nothing. She was staring at her scaffold had been climbing was falling. Inflammation, stress markers, cardiac load, all of it settling, like a machine finishing a cycle. 22 years of xenomedicine told her the patient in front of her should have been unconscious. The patient in front of her was watching the wall. Not the room. The wall. Specifically the environmental board mounted above the door, where Gallery 6 had turned from green to amber. You are not looking at me, Tesh said. No. Why? Because Gallery 6 is quiet, Mari said. Ice is never quiet. The floor moved. Not violently. A long, low shudder, the kind you feel in your knees before you hear it. Then the station voice came over every speaker at once, calm as a weather report. Pressure anomaly. Drill Gallery 6. Brine loop temperature falling. Engineering response requested. Mari was off the table before Tesh could reek. You are under observation, Tesh said. Mari pulled her jacket over the bad shoulder. And observe fast. Gallery 6 had been a worksite that morning. Now it was a throat. Frost climbed the walls in feathers. The overhead lamps threw long amber bars across the drill housing, and the whole gallery breathed, a slow creak and settle, as the ice around the bore contracted. Borin met her at the airlock with a diagnostic slate in both hands. Foreman. Loop pressure is nominal. Everything reads nominal. But the temperature will not H. The senior Concord engineer on site did not LFID staff are handling this. Mari walked past him to the drill housing, stripped the glove off her good hand, and laid her bare palm flat against the pipe. Tesh, arriving behind her with the portable S, that surface is below freezing. 3 seconds is free, Mari said. For Kos. She closed her eyes. Nobody spoke. The gallery creaked. The loop is not falling, Mari said. It is. The engineer turned. Pressure is nominal. Pressure is nominal because it is draining. It is pulling brine backward through the return and dumping the heat into the shelf. She opened her eyes. Somebody seated a bypass plug backward. That is a component the size of my thumb. So is a fuse. The engineer stared at the readouts. Erythial. And 100 meters of pipe slowly turning into a solid bar of ice behind the wall. How long? Borin asked quietly. Mari looked at the frost line. It had moved 2 centimeters since she walked in. 20 minutes before the column cracks. She not fixing a loop. We are fixing a moon. The order came 8 minutes later, in Vantratha's voice, on every channel. Seal drill Gallery 6 at Bulkhead 4. Vent and isolate. All personnel beyond that point are designated acceptable. Attrition. The gallery went silent. Even the ice seemed to pause. There were 9 people beyond Bulkhead 4. Mari keyed her shoulder mic. Overseer. Very of that door. Attrition is calculated against station survival. You can write the word acceptable, Mari threw. She let go of the mic and turned to the crew. I need the bypass housing open and I have 1 arm. Who is holding the bar? Nobody moved. The engineer looked at the floor. A Concord evacuation order was not a suggestion. It was a legal instrument. The engineer swore in a language the translator refused, and picked up a wrench. Then the second technician. Then the third. Within 20 seconds, every person in Gallery 6 was standing at the housing with the evacuation order still blinking on their wrists. Tesh watched it happen and understood something she would think about for years afterward. They did not follow Mari because she outranked them. She did not outrank them. They did not follow her because she was certain. She had said 20 minutes like a woman reading a bus schedule. They followed her because she had asked them to hold a bar she could not hold herself, and she had asked out loud, in front of everyone, instead of pretending she still had 2 working arms. The housing came open. The plug was in backward. It had been in backward for 6 weeks. And it had been installed under Mari's own authorization code. That is not mine, she said. Borin's slate was shaking slightly. Foreman. Then somebody has my code. Attention all personnel. Vantrath again, and this time the corridor lights shifted to Directorate Blue. Maintenance records confirm human interference with certified thermal systems. Foreman Marisol Vega is relieved of authority pending detention. Mari laughed. It was short and had no humor in it at all. He found a story people will believe, she s. Boots in the access corridor. Blue lights on M. Mari looked at the frost on the bulkhead wall, thick, white, smooth as paper. She pulled a flathead screwdriver out of her belt and started to write. Not words. A diagram. Loop, return, plug, shunt, arrows. Numbers beside each one. She wrote it fast, left-handed, the bad arm hanging. Borin. Read it out loud. Now. He read it. Twice. The engineer read it a 3rd time, memorizing. Return line first, Mari said. Then the auxiliary pump. Do not touch the shunt until the loop reads above -12, or it seizes and we start over. She stepped back. Read it fast. It only lasts while the wall is cold. Tesh looked at the diagram, and then at the woman drawing it, and realized she was no longer watching someone try to save herself. She was watching someone make S. They arrested her in front of the housing. She did not resist. She held her wrists out and asked them not to touch the right shoulder, and the officer, awkwardly, D. It was Borin who said it. The shunt. Vantreth turned. There is no shunt on this schematic. No, sir. Borin swallowed. There is no shunt on your schematic. Gallery 2 had been decommissioned. 31 OK 3 people to turn. Inside, past a corridor of dead cable runs and inspection tags signed by species that no longer crewed this moon, sat a first-generation thermal shunt. 2 hand wheels, a mechanical linkage, no software of any kind. It was spotless. The linkage gleamed with FRE. Tesh stared at it. This is maintained. Mari, still in restraints, tipped her chin at the housing plate. Read that. Names. Scratched into the metal by hand, one under another, with dates. 31 years of them. Rig hands, welders, drill techs. Concord, human, and 3 species Tesh could not identify. The directorate ordered it stripped and the fee crew greased it instead. Every winter. Nobody wrote it down, because writing it down is how you lose it. Vantreth read the names for a long time. This is a sealed asset, he said finally. Operating it is a criminal act. Yes. The seal may only be broken by a directorate overseer. Yes, Mari said. In person. By hand. The countdown on the wall read 4 minutes. Atreth put his palm on the seal and broke it. Duelders do not work that way. He turned it anyway, and by the 40th second there was frost forming on his sleeves and his breath was coming in short, shocked bursts, and he did not stop. Count, Mari said to Tesh. Tesh counted. At 60, the linkage dropped with a sound like a church bell in a freezer, and somewhere behind 3 meters of ice, 100 meters of pipe reverse direction. The frost line on the wall stopped. Then it began, very slowly, to retreat. Brine loop temperature rising. Thermal column stable. Gallery 6 pressure nominal. Nobody cheered. They were all listening. The gallery creaked once. Then it went quiet, and stayed quiet, and for the first time that day the quiet was good news. Mari sat down on the deck with her back against the shunt housing and closed her eyes. Somebody go tell the 9 people behind bulkhead 4, she said, that they're not attrition anymore. 3 weeks later, Tarsus 4 looked exactly like it had before. Cold. Loud. Green across the board. Mari came into the shop carrying a replacement anchor plate and found a wooden case sitting on her bench. Inside, mounted on felt under glass, was a cracked loo. The plate underneath read, Emergency Human and Used by the Tarsus 4 Medical Directorate. She laughed so hard she had to put the anchor plate down. Tesh appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of something hot. It is still terrible medicine. Absolutely. You will not use it again. Probably will. Vantreth came in a few minutes later and stood there the way people stand when they have practiced a sentence and it has stopped working. He held out a sealed document. Your record is cleared, he said. The Investling Directive. It was an efficiency mandate. Unlogged, as permitted. He paused. I signed it. Mari took the document and did not open it. The shunt has been entered into the official schematic, Vantreth said. The board has approved a designation. They intend to call it the Vega Line. No. He blinked. It is an honor. It's 31 years of people who kept it greased when your audit said to cut it up. Mari picked her screwdriver up off the bench. It already has a name on it. It has 42. She walked down to Gallery 2 with him following, knelt at the housing plate, and scratched M. Vega under the last name. In the column. Small. Same size as the rest. Then she left 4 inches of blank metal underneath it, and stood up. For who? Vantreth asked. Whoever's next. Tesh Amarai wrote it up later that year, in a paper the Concord Medical Assembly cited for a decade, and the finding was not the one anyone expected. Human pain tolerance was unremarkable. Human bone density was mediocre. Human reflexes were, frankly, slow. What her species had no word for was this: ing, and does not ask whose fault it is. She asks what it needs. She asks it about a pipe, and a bypass plug, and a shoulder, and a frightened junior technician, and an overseer who signed the wrong order. They do not survive because they are strong. They survive because they refuse to agree thinking.